Hi, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage, and we're having our monthly tech meet. And today we're going to take a silver cloud that got towed in and failed to proceed and get it to proceed again.
Oh.
So what we're going to do here, now here's the big thing with these old cars. If you notice that this has, it's called a screw-in plug wires. All these have little screwed-on ferrules. And this is a screw-in cap, which is fine. My suggestion is we convert it. We'll have the screw-in on the distributor side, which is fine, and then we'll just have a bush-in over here with the boot, and you will not know the difference. But I have to check with the owner first, because he's a stickler for originality.
So it's a shadow part you're putting on there?
A shadow part, yes.
Right.
All right.
Car that works now and allowing you to find
Sure.
that
Who's asking?
Oh, I'm asking.
Sure.
Since this has not been started, no electrical power to the plugs, do you have to worry about gas forming a hydraulic problem in the cylinder?
You know, that's actually a very good question. It depends on how much. If this were fuel injected, it's definitely a serious issue. If somebody's tried to start it over and over and over and over, and it not starting, what happens, the fuel injection just keeps on squirting. Carbureted is not quite as serious because it just pulls it by vacuum. Sometimes in super severe cases, I've seen it usually with coolant, but I have seen it with fuel too. It will put so much fuel in the cylinder that when the piston comes up and tries to compress that liquid, which is impossible, the engine would go, "Argh," and it would just stop. And you'd have to just let it squeeze by the rings eventually until you could get it to crank over again. So there is a definite danger, and if it fires up when you hydraulic a cylinder, then you're going to bend a rod, guaranteed, or break a cylinder.
What do you mean by the fuel washing the rings down?
Well, the rings, I mean, they're scraping on that cylinder. Typically it's cast iron, but modern cars, they have all kinds of things. And as they're rubbing, you know, the oil's supposed to help lubricate it, but it also helps seal it.
Yeah.
So if you put a lot of fuel on there, or any other kind of solvent, which fuel is like a solvent,
Yeah.
it washes all the oil out of there, and it won't get any compression. Swear to God.
Really?
I've had zero compression from fuel washdown.
Because the oil is washed away from
All the oil is washed away, and it's just not enough to, you know, because when you think about it, that compression stroke is just one stroke. Right? It's boom. It's just, it sucks the air in, and on one stroke up, it's got to build all that compression. And if that's happening 2,000 times a minute, it may not get enough compression. Usually it's when cranking, but if you think about it, the compression stroke's pretty quick. So there's always blow-by anyways. There's always leakage. But enough fuel will wash it down to where you'll have zero compression. And you think, oh, I got to do the engine, but not necessarily.
The seal of the ring is the steel seal, as well as the layer of viscous oil around it.
Right.
If you change the viscosity by putting fuel there, you
Right.
just know there's a gap between the ring and cylinder.
Yes, there's a gap on each ring, and there's usually at least 3 rings on a piston. All right? So let's fix this thing. Let's see, what am I going to need? One of those and one of these, and they're all over here. Yeah, well, you had some classic old Craftsman stuff there. I like that. So I'm getting this out of the way. Scratching the
What's your
paint.
opinion on starting fluid?
Well, that's if we had great spark and no fuel, then I would trace back on the fuel system. So to test for fuel pressure, what I would do is just crack this line here. This is the feed to one of the carburetors. So when you turn the ignition on, this is an electric fuel pump. If that is cracked, fuel should start at least seeping out of there. And if you've got spark and fuel, and it still doesn't start, that's when I go to starting fluid. Check the basics first. If you're not sure about fuel, there's no way to test for it, then you can try with starting fluid. And if it fires and then dies, then you know you've got a fuel supply problem. The danger with a lot of using starting fluid is sometimes it'll cause some damage. If you use too much, you use it on fuel injection, sometimes it'll damage some airflow meters, issues, lots of stuff. So I use it all the time though. And I think technically it's not really good for your engine. That's what I've heard. So there's the, you can see oil has been running out of here. It's running down there. You can pass that around.
But that is the correct part that I got, right?
Yeah, it looks good. It's pretty.
Made in China.
Made in China. What
Well, I
isn't
don't
made
think
in
Lucas
China
is around
today?
anymore.
There are a few things.
Lifetime guarantee.
That's a joke, because it doesn't actually tell you anywhere it's made. It can be made in Ireland or...
Oh, yeah, it'd be worse, huh? Oh, Scotland. Because they reuse parts there.
A bunch of guys that are running on whiskey.
Oh, yes. High octane. All right, that's bolted on.
Very unusual that you see a component with no identification number, no... nothing. Oh, is that right?
It's like that old joke, like, what's the shortest joke you ever heard? Two Irishmen walk past a bar, it could happen.
Oh, nice. Now we're going.
It's highly unusual.
It's an anomaly. Okay, what happened to the other nuts that I pulled off? Did I
Well,
toss
if you
them?
live there and experience the weather, you know why they drink.
This should be a good drinking day based on what's turned outside.
Not even my coffee cup and I lost it. Did I drop them? I know, I had pulled both of them off, right?
One of
You leave
the
the soil?
nuts is on here. Is that the?
Oh,
you're
that's the
looking
one I'll
for?
take, yes, sir. Very common problem on these cars is the loose nut behind the wheel. So this time I hooked up the polarity correct. And just so you know, a coil will still work if you hook it up backwards. It's just that when you put it on an oscilloscope test machine, all the spikes will go down instead of up. I don't know about the longevity or anything else like that, but it'll still run. So the car will run when you hook up the battery backwards, right, Steve? That was a good one. Okay, now we need to service the coil wire. So this end goes on here. Right. Yes, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go upstairs, grab some spark plug wire and the things I need to make you a new one, and I'll show you how that's done. So I can't find our bulk spark plug wire, so I borrowed one out of a set. So this one end's got to go into the coil, right? This is a push-in style. So if you take that boot, you slide it on there and say, boy, that looks just like it meant to be there, right? So we're going to use that as that end. The other end we're going to make a screw-in style. So this is going to be a little bit shorter. I got to shorten it. And where did I just put that? Oh, so we are going to need the screw-in end. We need to fish it out of there. So we'll need that nut. I want to use this boot too, and I needed that. trying to slide this boot off, and it's not gonna let me. Let's try going the other way. There. So we're gonna use that boot. And if you spray it with silicone, which I got some over here.
Do you need that guy on the deck, Ronnie, that fell?
Excuse me?
Do you need that piece on the deck that filled it?
No. This is not a boat, by the way. The deck.
Right there, by your foot.
Transom looks a little low. There we go. So I used a little spray silicone on there. It slid on real nice, right? And we'll need the nut. Say goodbye to this 55-year-old car wire. There's that. All right. And since this nut needs something to hold it on, because you screw this down, originally it had this little flare on there, so that would, when you tightened it, that would hold it against the distributors. So what we're going to do is going to cheat. They make these little washers that are made for this, little brass washers, and I'm going to just use and screw this right into the, this is silicone wire, which is much better. It's got built-in suppression, so it doesn't give you static on your radio. So now, see that? So I always put the screw in one first, only so I can tighten it without twisting the cable. And then we'll slide the boot down. I'll plug this in. I'll slide that up. Try to start it.